This is the One Up Radio Network, and now GFW Radio.
Hello and welcome to the Games for Windows radio podcast. That's GFW Radio to you. This is Jeff Green, the editor-in-chief of GFW. It's February 20th? 19th, 20th. I don't know. Who cares? Why do I always say that? Who cares? And I'm here with the staff of GFW, minus Darren Gladstone, who's on his honeymoon. Condolences to the poor lady.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations to Darren, and we're sorry to his wife.
Flaming hot Cheetos.
Yeah, and you done with those Cheetos? Because that wouldn't sound good on air there, Sean.
I'm done. I just gave you the last.
Were they good?
Mm-hmm. Let's keep them going. Let's not let the Cheetos hold the show up.
Okay, and Ryan, you got to stop playing with your mic here. Ryan's been playing with the mic wire for 10 minutes.
Kind of OCD of them, really.
It is kind of OCD. It's making me worry about you. Why don't you introduce yourselves to the fine folks listening out there?
This is Ryan Scott.
This is Shawn Elliott.
And this is Sean Malloy.
Hi. And yeah,
we're all here.
We have the empty Darren chair. We'll see how it changes the dynamic.
That's what'll happen.
Yeah.
It's quieter.
It's quieter. Yeah. So we got a lot to talk about today. Let's not waste any more time. We're going to talk about Sean is going to do a few dramatic readings for us over the course of the podcast. We'll spread them out.
We need a name for this, too. Maybe listeners can come up with one. But right now, we're calling them the Heroes of the Web.
Shawn Elliott's Heroes of the Web.
The idea is just to take the finest specimens of human communication I can find that are game-related from the internet, from our letters, our email and letters bag.
And then rip them to shreds.
No, not really. Just read them as I find them.
Mm-hmm.
Just dramatically read them.
Indeed.
And so, but I mean, I think scrawled in human feces would be good. It doesn't have the ring to it that Heroes of the Interweb does or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you got something,
just to give you a taste of what's to come.
Send them in, and we're going to be hitting these up as we go. But first, let's go. What else do we got?
We're going to talk about, there were a couple announcements about games that were both former cover stories of ours that were big PC exclusives we now have found are going to be on consoles. So we're going to talk about that a little bit and why that makes us cry. Then we're going to talk about, no, it wasn't a question. This was Ryan's own discovery that a game that he has loved like a sister, has now bummed him out to the point where he wrote an angry blog about it this weekend. And so we're going to talk about that specifically, about his one experience, and then if any of the rest of us have had experiences where the games we've loved have turned us to hate. After that, we're going to share some stories about buying games, past and present. And was that a forum question-inspired topic?
That's, no, well, I just decided we needed a good topic going.
Oh, you just made that one up.
And so, but I put a notice on
it's a good
forums. Just to see what people. I didn't quite get the responses that I was kind of thinking of, like when people were talking about how filthy their rooms are and stuff. Just because to me, I associate the game buying experience with just utter misery. But I mean, there's some good commentary got, so I collected that, and then we've got all of our own stories to draw on.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Then I will yammer a little bit about the Lord of the Rings Online beta that I've been on since this weekend. I already did some of that on the WoW podcast in the past hour, but I'll do it again.
What the hell were you talking about Lord of the Rings Online in the WoW podcast?
I know. Well, because there's a lot of similarities.
Okay, if you're going to have that podcast and you're going to take time away that you could be spending with GFW, you're going to talk about WoW and only WoW.
Yes, sir.
That's pretty much it.
No, it was basically just to convince all the WoW people to, it's might be worth a shot. And it's probably your kind of game, Sean. Because, it's a kind of game where you, get to be a hobbit and, bake pies for other players.
Okay, well, I walked out of the second Lord of the Rings, never saw the third one, so...
Really?
Maybe it is my kind of game.
Holy shit. Okay.
He loves the Tolkien. This sounds like a jam-packed episode.
It's a jam-packed episode. We have so much to do.
We can hit all that. And let's just start off with the writer Sponge Ash. He was on the One-Up forums. I'll have to cite where these come from because where possible, get them from One-Up forums, GFW forums, and a few instances from elsewhere. So, in a thread titled "Ghostwriter This Gam," that's Ghostwriter This Gam,
GAM.
Sponge Ash says
he didn't mean it like a leg, like from the 1950s movie.
I don't think you should ask him to spell
he didn't mean like gams.
Nice gams. Nice gams.
Ghostwriter This Gam.
Take me flapping anymore.
This game is off the hook, yo. You are Ghost Rider Nicolas Cage, who is an action-y skeleton with fire. You have a chainy whip with fire. Eva Mendex has the bonerest Magumbos in history. 10 out of 10. So that's Sponge Ash.
He has some excellent...
He's a game reviewer in the making.
There's some excellent descriptive skill in there.
That was almost a haiku.
You need
It is on site. What is that? Skeleton? Describe it again. What is
action-y
it?
skeleton
with fire. Come on.
That is the most
What else
apt
do you need to know?
description of Ghost Rider I've ever heard.
It is.
It's an action. It's an action-y movie. Wait, where am I going with this? Okay, it's an action-y skeleton with fire. With an action-y woman with breasts or magumbos or whatever he calls it in an action-y movie with suckage. So there we go.
He summed it all up. He did it. He wrote a review in about 30 words there.
He did. Okay, so moving along. We don't need to deliberate too long on these unless they inspire you to. I just kind of like leave them with you like a little prayer for the day. Just kind of center your focus your thoughts.
Now we can eat. Thanks, Sean.
Okay,
so we'll start off with the quote unquote bad news. It's not that maybe I'm getting numb to the fact. But anyway, we learned that The Crossing, which was on our cover last month, and Enemy Territory Quake Wars, both heading to Xbox 360.
Right. And but on last week's podcast, we had just sort of patted Activision on the back for having Quake Wars, the PC-only AAA title.
Yeah.
And we were just talking about how in this big multi-platform world, we have so little to ourselves.
Do we care?
It's funny. I realize I care, and it's like odd for me because normally I really just don't give a shit. And anytime I see people arguing about like Resident Evil came out on PlayStation 2, that the director had to cut his head off, all that crap. I was like, whatever, who cares? I played on the one I want to play it on,
Right.
Yeah.
And of course, here I'll play it on I'll be playing. I can guarantee Crossing and Quake Wars are the variety game I will be playing on PC. But it's kind of a bummer because we need. Maybe it's just because I work for a PC gaming mag, and it's like we need something for ourselves to say like, okay. Not only is it the best version of the experience, here, but it's like the only place you're getting it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just petty, or like I said, maybe it's just me like job security or something.
I don't know. I think it's a numbing effect. Like to me, it's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Is I'm just numb to the fact that they're going to keep doing this
wherever I have to.
Crysis, that one's still ours, man.
But
we still got Crysis.
But we've been saying from the beginning, Crysis. We know a version of Crysis will be coming out on consoles.
Are these going to be simultaneous releases? This Crossing?
There's no way. There's no way at this point because well, who knows with the Crossing because it's so far out. Quake Wars, no chance in hell. They've been working. I know while it's relatively easy to port the code from PC to 360 and work on simultaneously in terms of the interfaces for this game. In terms of I hate saying in terms of, but insofar as the interface goes, aiming, just all the usual stuff that comes into the picture when you're dealing with a first-person shooter and the different interfaces. You use controller and stuff. So there's no way we'll have it, and that's really what matters first. Just like we are going to get word is that we're going to get Gears of War on PC. But at this point, that game was, in my mind, that game was like made and made really well for a controller.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We've already played it there, so it's like you really care when it's later.
Yeah, that does nothing for me.
First out the gate really does matter if you're hardcore, unless you're tipped off in advance that there's going to be like a significant disparity in the experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Which is pretty rare that it would work that way. Like with Resident Evil was the other direction. Some people said they liked it. It did look good for a PS2 game, but it was like, hey, if you played, it was out first on GameCube. It looked better, unless you're going to just like be an internet and argue about it endlessly. So like whatever.
Whenever these companies like say they're going to add something for some other version, it's always some frickin' they just throw you some bone to make you buy. We put in there's another
room you can go in if you're
there's one more room. So you need that one too. Get that one too. Because there's a room. There's never been a room in the other one. And if you go in that room, there's the monsters in there. How long is it going to take to get through that room? Well, we're not not really sure. It's going to depend on the player. We're thinking, it might take anywhere from 10, 15 minutes.
Fucking Rain Man, not only are you doing this, you're pushing your eyeglasses through a hole in your sock.
Yeah, I know.
Your disgusting foot is on the recording table. Please, I object to that.
I'm kind of going through some, weird.
I like that. We just keep rambling.
Spontaneous combustion.
This is how it works.
Turned into someone else for a second.
The only way it could have went after that, the only response was, "You guys ever thought about infinite space?" And it asked me, "Well, go ahead.
What's infinite space?
I just,
It just keeps going and going and going and going."
So what's in that room? Infinite space.
Nothing. But you didn't get that on the PS2, though. You didn't get that room.
That's true. The guy, you were never able to get this gun. This gun made the game 45.7% more entertaining. And if you're a completist, the idea is being a completist. If you're a completist, you have to have everything. And there's not everything in that version. Therefore, you can't have that version and call yourself a completist.
See?
What about
We're all doing it.
The third remake of Ninja Gaiden or whatever for the PS3?
Yeah, right.
Stop it.
Right.
Stop.
So where do we take this?
I know where we take this.
We lost.
I know.
They made our heroes multi-platform.
Right.
And we're losing their.
So what do we do with? Let me ask one question related to this.
Yes.
Is anybody here on this podcast gonna play Halo 2 on the PC?
No.
I will try it, of course.
Will you try it just out of professional curiosity, interest, or because actually it excites you that this game is at some point going to come out?
Curiosity. And
I will play it if there is an extra room.
Wow.
No, I won't.
That shit works on Shawn.
God, it's weird. Like the whole.
We got to have Shawn sit in on every demo
Halo.
since he just sucks that stuff up. Hey, guys, it's going to be an extra room. Let me do it too. I'll do it. Can I write the preview?
That's me. Yeah.
You can write an exclusive.
We can't wait till it comes out in November.
Of that room. The thing with the Halo and Half-Life, they epitomize. They're like the two. It's like Sonic and Mario.
Yeah.
It's like Master Chief and Gordon Freeman. And we kind of got it bad, and like Gordon Freeman's a chump or whatever. But the other guy's just the generic as hell Space Marine. Well, it's like, I've got a crowbar, and I'm going to conduct some experiments, and maybe I'll beat on some head crabs.
He's cool.
But
I like his crowbar.
Master Chief is like,
over Master Chief.
check me out. I saw aliens, and I decided it would be pretty cool if I got one of their costumes and one of their dropships. But instead of aliens, I fought the Predator. That'd be pretty fun. And then I stole the head crabs from Half-Life and fought them. Give them guys a new name. Call them the Flood. A flood of
Cartman
filth.
as Master Chief.
No, but anyway, I'm just thinking of like whenever you're online and you're playing Halo, it's like, this is the best freaking FPS ever made, and then you're like in PC shooters, like, oh god, I can't believe those freaking tards are playing Halo. It's so good.
Yeah.
Look at me, I can turn this thing around like the Titanic and shoot the guy behind me. I mean, it's like it's always that's just how it works.
So we're probably going to
it's weird that it's coming out. I know Halo's been on PC before. It's just weird to me to see like the standard bearer for console FPS, aggressive console FPS coming to PC.
Yeah,
where it's like it's got like a built-in like base of people who despise it for the fact that like the opposition defined themselves with it for so long.
The first time I ever saw Halo was on the PC, way back at E3. Bastards.
The walls just continue to break down between.
Yeah,
basically, eventually there'll just be like one game box.
I just need to remind you guys though that Halo 2 for Windows will be the first opportunity to collect Live Anywhere achievement points.
Yes,
true.
the achievements.
Which mean a lot to me.
That means a lot to a lot of people. I mean, actually went and visited Shu from EGM this weekend, and he was playing Lord of the Rings. It's not Witch King, but the Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle Earth 2 on Xbox, and I was like, this looks kind of like a sad existence. Like, what are you doing? He's just sitting on there, like, just puttering around. He's like, I'm just getting achievements.
Was he in his underwear? Was he dressed?
More or less.
Well, he wrote a blog about that. It was like he had played it for a review on like a debug unit and then lost them all, and it depressed him. So he needed.
Did he lost?
So he's
the
going.
I'm paraphrasing. I don't know if it's exactly
right.
If he actually had to check into a clinic or anything. But
it's not like losing your graduate diploma or something like that. I mean,
to some people, it might be.
Okay, we can't do it. I'm infamous for that. I'll bring up some shit. We can't talk about this.
And then you bring it up.
Hey guys, by the way, we can't talk about this.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to Ryan's big moment. Ryan kind of spontaneously combusted on oneup.com this week. That was a great blog post.
I did. I was patrolling that joint, and I saw on the front page, like Ryan Scott, and then like, damn it all to hell! I hate
I think
this
the
game,
post was called "Guild Wars Can Die and Go to Hell."
That is what the post was called. I kind of finally snapped this weekend after 2 years of Guild Wars. Just
Wow, what did it?
What happened?
I think
Let it out.
I've played that game so much that I can kind of like see the seams in the fabric finally, and it's
So maybe it's not a fault of the game.
That's like
It-
Now, could you not
how
see
long?
them?
How many years before you saw these seams?
I've been playing it since
So for
since
2
it came out,
years.
so almost 2 years.
So what broke you finally?
Well, I'm in the in-game area of Guild Wars Nightfall. One of the in-game areas is called the Realm of Torment, which is the
Whoa.
That might be part of the problem.
the equivalent of hell. Yeah, the Realm of Torment, I guess. Yeah,
Does it
that's
have
kind of
like
self-explanatory.
red platforms? Is it just like a bunch of platforms floating over lava that you gotta? I know it's not a platform.
No,
but
that's
it's just
in
about
the other
entertaining,
Guild
man.
Wars game.
Well, it's
okay.
hell in every video game.
Sean was just making it up,
Just like hell
and it
in every
actually is in the
That's
game.
exactly what it
Yeah,
was.
wrong level.
In God
The
of War.
floating platform lava level is a different.
God of War, we call it Hades.
That was the first Guild Wars game.
hellish platforming in Spawn games for Xbox. I played a lot of shitty games that had hell in them.
Yeah, so you're in this torment.
So I'm in the Realm of Torment.
Realm of Torment.
And I'm, as you guys here know, very obsessive about checking all the quests off my log.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of personal OCD.
Mm-hmm.
Much like
And-
your chord thing you were doing earlier.
I'm trying to work all the tangles out of this cord.
Yeah,
And I'm
okay.
going to do it after
Okay,
this podcast
but
is over.
don't do it right now while you're talking. Instead,
Anyway, so
gotta fix this cord.
so I ran all the way across this zone, clearing out all these monsters along the way, just to get to this one quest NPC.
Okay.
Right? So he could give me this quest to do. And so I finally get to him, and it's like, go kill 5 of these things over in this other part of the zone. And the 5 of these things that I have to kill are, surrounded by huge mobs of like
Trash mobs.
10, 12, yeah,
Uh-huh.
10, 12 monsters apiece. And it works out in such a way that, like, no matter how carefully you go and try to pull like a select few of them
Mm-hmm.
and pick them off, intelligently, you're going to aggro the whole spawn. you
Right.
know? And it gets to the point where, they're killing me. I resurrect way back at the beginning of the zone with like full death penalty. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to run back. I'm going to be able to kill one. Then they'll kill me again. Then I'll run back and I'll just keep picking them off one by one until I get to the end.
I see.
Like,
because they
this-
stay dead when
Right.
you've killed them.
Right.
Okay.
Is this even
so
with
you can
friends,
eventually
though, or
beat
you
them by
solo it?
attrition.
Right, exactly. Which
Yeah.
is like, at that point, I have to ask myself, like, why am I doing this?
You have a
isn't-
posse though.
I was using NPCs, and I admit that if I were in a group, full of real people,
Right.
it would make this task easier. But
But isn't that how like Guild? I mean, to be fair, isn't it like World of Warcraft where it's like you have to have a posse, go roll mob deep in those like 60-hour raids, 60-man. I get that shit confused, but 60-something raids.
That's how it is.
Yeah, kind of.
Right,
I mean,
right,
there's no real comparison there because WoW, you can't have NPCs playing for you.
Right.
But
Well,
Yeah.
one of the whole big draws in Nightfall was that, hey,
the
play it
hero
solo,
NPCs.
go, yay.
right.
Yeah.
NPCs that are
But
AI.
but to be fair, you are at the end boss. I mean, this is an end boss thing, right? So
This is a normal quest.
Oh, it's a normal
This
quest.
isn't like a story mission. This is like
Okay.
a normal quest with like the standard like 2,500 experience quest reward. Like no different than any other quest in any of the earlier zones.
okay, so you had a bad quest experience. You had a bad day.
This is
You
one
have-
example of
okay.
many.
That is.
This is just the point. That was the breaking
It sounds
point.
like you just need a break.
Or just write
be.
ArenaNet and explain to them that you're not putting quarters in your own PC. I mean, they're
Yeah.
not like that's like
yeah, that's
quarter eating gameplay you're talking about.
totally.
Yeah.
Right.
All of a sudden, you get to the boss and it just coats the screen with so many like death balls that it's like absolutely, literally impossible.
Yeah, that
to,
was
like,
my
survive
problem with
without
that
putting
was
some
my
more
problem
change
with
in.
Titan Quest too. I mean, that was my problem with the expansion was that you had to die 800 times before you could finally beat the guy. And if but like Iron Lore seems to sort of do that in general. Like with the original game, they nerfed the in the most recent patch. They nerfed what's the opposite of nerf? They took the end boss and
Shrimped.
they strengthened him so that he was that much harder. and he was so hard that it was like what you're saying. You would like you'd run across the thing, you'd get there, you'd hit him once with your axe, then you'd be dead, and you like scraped like 1 hit point off him, and you could keep doing that forever, and eventually he's gonna die.
But
it's like, why are you doing that?
But Ryan, why is it that like a dude could stare at the sun for a couple minutes and realize the fucking fabric of his own insanity, which took you 2 years? It took you 2 years to figure out that's bullshit that you got to like. Just do. I mean, the whole game is based on collect 5 scales of Thardor. Collect 5 tails of Minigong. Collect 5 unicorn horns of Thugalazigadog. And it's like, that's all it is for 2 years. Well, guys, but there's a new expansion, and there's, I get a mission where I collect 7 horns of Dorgadil. 25 toenails of Zangazing. Finally,
he finally broke.
Yeah.
Something's not right here, guys.
I'm wondering if it's like,
I think
is
it's
there a
just a
difference
matter
between
of,
seeing
like-
the seams or just being sick of them? Because like,
that's
with WoW,
the thing.
With WoW, I saw the seams a while ago. I'm like, okay, I understand that this isn't necessarily the best way to design a game, but I'm okay with that.
Right,
And
and
I really
also
like
you've
it.
played it like 8,000 hours too.
Right. There's a point
So-
where you understand the game completely, and it becomes like a meta game.
right.
That's the thing.
To me,
with
like a
Guild
sign of a.
Wars.
Did you not
I mean,
reach that point?
I think it
before
was.
this?
I mean, like I've just been playing it so long, and I've just been sort of wanting to ignore it because I don't want all this time to have been wasted.
The whole concept of like playing a game so much that you understand, you see through the tissue of it, and then you begin to like realize it's not as cool as you thought. It's like the perfect like microscopic example is Dragon's Lair, and when you're like 8 years old and you play it, you're like, holy shit, it's a cartoon. And you put your buck in there. And you're like, just playing Simon Says. A cartoon is play whatever you want. Like that's just like the most like rudimentary, reductionist version of that
could
there is.
never understand that game. When that game came out and all my friends were obsessing over it, I was like, man, you get this is like the Moonies,
right?
Like, how could you think this is good?
Right,
like this is totally this like you're paying to like see the next place you're going to make the mistake, so that you'll pay again to then make it around one more corner,
right? People will do that. I think, I don't know. I mean, I could be talking out my ass, but like I'm guessing that years later, like Gears of War 2, God of War 2, because they show everything that they try to showcase it with is that quick time event stuff. Yeah, that's basically Dragon's Lair, and it's like, that looks great, but I think at some point those kids that weren't when we were 8 and we were in the arcade spending mom's buck on something we shouldn't have been spending mom's buck on, like they're now spending mom's $50 on it, and they're gonna be like, you know what? I was just spinning that analog stick. It didn't matter. That jaw was still getting ripped off the harpy no matter what what I did,
So, I mean, don't you think it's possible that you're being overly, this is like a smoker who quits and then hates smokers. Like, don't you think you're being a little harsh? Maybe you're not. I don't know.
No.
On Guild Wars, you're not.
You might be back.
Well, Guild Wars, it's a game where, like, you're like me, you spend a lot of time.
You're the person who sues McDonald's for making you fat. True. That's kind of true, dude.
No.
Look what you've done to me.
No, I mean, I spend like a lot of time making my character like the best he can be, and working out builds for my hero NPCs, because that's what you do with them.
Right.
You want them to be effective, and then you get into a situation like this where the logic is just like, oh, let's just throw a bunch of powerful stuff at him that he can't possibly take.
So that no matter what you had done to build it up, it didn't really matter.
It's punishing.
Yeah.
It doesn't reward you in any way.
Are you sure you just haven't? Are you positive you haven't found the secret method or their secret weakness? Like if you would sprinkle a little unicorn oil on your swords and hit them, they would go down like
they
couple
don't
hits or something like
respawn,
that.
Yeah, I'm pretty positive.
Sharpen your sword on the unicorn horn, and you will vanquish your enemies.
But the thing that, like, I made this blog post, and the response, all the comments on the blog were like, yeah, how come it took you this long to notice? This is exactly why I quit playing Guild Wars 2.
Yeah.
So.
Well, now you have WoW. You don't need Guild Wars.
That's right. And then
You're only 2 years away from the same blog about WoW. Right?
This game stinks too.
Vanguard, 4 years from the same one about Vanguard.
Yeah. You are kind of like the guys we get letters from that say that they're sick of this game and it stinks, or they hate this game and they can't believe that we would say this because they put in 120 hours and they know better than us how bad this game is.
Right.
It's like, if it's that bad and you're 120 hours in, maybe you could have stopped at like 118 hours ago. I mean, what the hell?
It's like Stockholm Syndrome.
There's other games.
Dude, Stockholm Syndrome for MMOs. Actually, you could go somewhere with that.
You
could write a
absolutely
thesis.
could.
Go get yourself
Probably.
a degree on this one, man.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm
That's
paying
all
$15
MMOs. I
a
like
month.
that.
It must be great.
I like that.
Yeah.
They're taking
Except
my money.
Guild Wars, you're not even paying for it, though.
For the children out there, the Stockholm Syndrome is when an abductee starts to, you want to.
Oh, when someone who's like taken hostage or whatever, like
They can Google it.
you can Google
learning
it.
to love your captor.
Yeah,
Learning to love your
Yeah.
captor.
Mm-hmm.
I bet there's a lot of I think there's Stockholm Syndrome actually in all video games, not just MMOs.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think once somebody spent the money for a game,
Right.
They want to love it.
They want to love it. And
Yeah.
that's why they get
No matter what it does to them.
defensive or angry about reviews. Even if part of them may know better.
Yeah.
Part of them's going, this game sucks.
Yeah.
They
You
want to
know
know
it.
that
Occasionally,
they
what's-
spent their money wisely.
Well, yeah, there's a
Right.
You see
period
that
of time.
person, like, they'll pop up on the internet in the forum, and they're like, late to the party, something game for the win. And it's like, you look, you're like, no, that game sucked. It sucked then. It sucks now.
Right.
Freaking
But somebody's
crazy.
going to
You
go,
got Stockholm
Catwoman
Syndrome.
has a lot going for it.
Right, yeah.
You guys
there's
don't know
always
what you're
something
talking
like
about.
that. Yeah.
I bought it last week, and I played it all weekend. It must be good, right? Anyone? Hello?
True.
Yeah.
And then Catwoman shaves her head, and it turns out it's all dented, so they're all, I never liked Catwoman in the first place. It wasn't that fun. That was a little
So you'll be
something for the
back.
children.
You'll be back to Guild Wars, I think.
Maybe.
When the next expansion comes around, you're going to be the first guy in line.
You just need,
I was just burnt out.
So,
just need time away.
You need time away.
and we need time for our break.
You need time for a break.
You like that?
I did
Nice,
like
very
that.
nice.
I did there.
That was beautiful.
Thank you, Ed McMahon.
All right.
Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. But as long as you're here, let me tell you about EGM Live, the weekly podcast from the editors of Electronic Gaming Monthly, along with the wonderful sounds of... EGM Live comes action-packed with special guests, late-breaking news, fanboy-baiting commentary, behind-the-scenes tales of office tomfoolery, and trivia contests with fantabulous prizes. Download it now at egmlive.oneup.com or subscribe to it through iTunes.
EGM Live is part of the OneUp Radio Network, taped in the Ziff Davis offices in San Francisco. It is not actually live, and contest prizes are not guaranteed to be fantabulous.
And we're back.
Time's ticking. We've got to stay on the clock today. So we've got 1 hour exactly, right?
Maybe a good thing Darren's not here because it's one less talker.
Okay.
We're on the clock here.
So I'll let you guys choose. Well, we're going back into our still unnamed Heroes of the Web.
Heroes of the Web.
We've got the letter champion. You know, the guy who's
The guy who wrote
like
us
a
a letter
tiff.
today.
And then actually, I can't ask you to choose because you don't know about the next. Well, then we got the classic guy, who calls the swamp, almost the swamp man.
The Swamp, the guy with the extremely limited vocabulary.
Well, it's not a limited vocabulary. The guy with like an insane.
Construction.
Yeah, let's just leave it at
He
that. Let's
kind of
not ruin
writes in
the surprise.
haiku form.
We've got so many good ones here. Let me just go
for it.
We'll do two. Here's
Good
one that
one.
goes back and forth. We've got Doofer, and he is from. Where's this guy from?
You know what? We need some kind of musical or sound effects
Okay,
transition. every
Doofer
time.
is from
Shawn
he's
does
from the
this.
One Up Yours forum. So for more quality threads like this, visit the One Up forums. Doofer says, I had a rough weekend, went out and got ruined in contemplation. I discovered computer games are not cool. It was cool to play them when they had arcades, but since PlayStation, N64, Dreamcast crucified arcades, computer games have slowly become uncool. My point is this. Music is cool. You can go out and listen to music, and there's an element of danger and uncertainty. You can meet the opposite sex, and you can get laid. You can discuss the event as it's happening with other people, and you could get into a fight, or get really drunk and spew. Arcades had all of this,
That's
and now it's gone. Now we play online. Online play is not cool. Computer games are becoming uncool. You know when it's getting bad when Microsoft gets involved. I love 360, but sorry, Microsoft are not cool. I guess my point is that with cool comes mischief. You have to be a rebel to be cool. There's nothing rebellious about playing computer games with your friends online, and with your mom, and with your dad sitting downstairs watching the TV. That ain't cool. Computer gaming will never become mainstream unless it is perceived to be cool. To which Xavier responds, so you go places to get drunk, laid, and start fights? Gee, maybe arcades aren't cool because you got kicked out of them all. You think? You know it's bad when Microsoft gets involved. What the hell do you think all the greatest computer games of all time were based on, you jackass? Microsoft Windows or DOS. That box you type this on, if not a PS3 or Wii, is called a computer, and it either runs one of two systems, Linux or Windows. And if you don't think gaming on Windows is cool, try cross-compiling code modules, one on top of the other, and dealing with driver issues just to play one game on Linux. So it is getting a lot better.
Wow.
Oh,
So
He told him, huh?
Wow.
that's another reason why the internet and forum message boards are kick ass.
what arcades is he going to?
Yeah, really.
Dude, the guy goes to arcade. I like that. I go to fight. I go to drink. I go to have sex up the ladies. Even
ladies
when I can think
lounging
of
on
like the
Mortal
80s,
Kombat.
when the arcade was like kind of cool, you'd go there after school. You know, like the long hairs would be there smoking a cigarette and playing good old Dragon's Lair. I mean, maybe a fight. Actually, I got in a fight. I got a couple fights in arcades. What am I talking about?
Because the guy put the quarter in front of your quarter?
Well, no, for like jockeying for room on track and field.
Oh,
Shit,
yeah,
we're both trying to play.
Oh, your elbows
Dude's
are
like
bumping.
getting in my joint, so we start pushing each other, and we're like fighting on the ground in the pizza place. The guy comes out, stop that!
Fights I see, but like where are the women lounging around on Frogger?
Yeah,
Glen? Is
yeah.
this
I
your
didn't get
high
laid.
score?
I didn't get laid at the pizza place though. Waiting for
You weren't getting checked out while you were playing Frogger?
like dude, that guy's so good at that game.
It is so sexy the way he's
got
driving
that
those cars.
popsicle stick between the buttons. If he's that fast with that, then leave it at that.
You're not ASS, are you?
So, on our
That was a
next
funny
topic
letter.
on our agenda,
Yeah, we're going
Got
to talk
plenty of
about, it's a kind of a nostalgic podcast.
since we're back in the arcades,
We're back in the arcades because
let's look at where we bought games.
We're
But
talking
we can
about
also look at where we get
game
them
buying
now.
past and present.
Mhm.
I might have a different experience than you guys, but
Why don't we start with you, and we'll work our way.
To the future.
We'll work our way to the present.
let's talk about what it's going to be like in 10 years.
So what was it like? Where did you get those games?
back when I was a kid, I was buying my computer games.
Actually,
Well, let me tell you, Sean. Where am I again?
no, I really, to me, it was just, it's a matter of it going from being incredibly nerdy and geeky to being a lot more mainstream now. I don't think there's like a better or worse aspect to it. It was just like back then, I would buy them at dedicated gaming stores that weren't like EB now. It wasn't like Mick Gaming Store like those are. It would be much more like some doofus's hobbyist store,
Right.
And he'd be selling everything from. I mean, those stores still exist today, right? A gaming store that's selling Magic cards or whatever.
Right.
But this, of course, predates Magic even. And
This was a lot. I'm envisioning a lot of wood panel walls.
a lot of wood panel, a lot of like cats running around in the store.
and stuff coming in a bag, like in a little paper envelope, and he hands you over the counter.
Yeah, there were games bought in. You bought them in plastic bags, and
got something new in. I mean, was it that kind of situation. I mean, we're just imagining. Hey, Jeff, I got something new in. You might be interested this week.
it would totally be like that.
Have a look. And you're like, oh yeah, let me take a look at that.
It would be like that. And in between buying, you'd be sitting around talking about,
Like, have you checked in on Battle of the Bulge? Have you been playing any board games lately?
and you'd be sitting around and talking about comics. I mean, it was not unlike being in a comic store today. It was much more just like you were sort of in the club, like a chess club thing. And it was very
there were a
homey
bunch
kind
of
of
dudes
feeling.
passed out in the back with like Magic the Gathering cards like splayed out in their hands.
But this was pre-magic. So
Booger hanging down.
But there were
They
always
have, like
people
Warhammer figurines.
and D&D, lots
Yeah.
of D&D
Oh, yeah.
back then. It was really, it did feel a little bit like going to, I don't know, it was like walking into like a, some like back alley, like, heroin dealer sort of.
What about like
or,
going into a
people
porn shop? You
with
felt dirty going in
hookup
there.
pipes or
Like
something.
when you came out, you didn't want
Yeah,
people
you
to
felt
know
a
the
little
chick.
bad. Yeah, you had your like plastic bag with the computer game in it.
Pools of
you felt
radiance.
a little dirty. Yeah,
You had that
pools of
little
radiance.
Quick step going.
Yeah,
Just got yourself out there like double speed.
yeah. I'd be riding home on my bike, going like, "Oh man, I just spent all this money. It's like looking at other people like with girlfriends and stuff, like feeling kind
Probably
of bad.
was. I'm thinking you're making that part up. You were probably excited and like you couldn't wait to go down there.
Of course I couldn't wait.
Mom, you were just Jeff. You were just there yesterday. I don't feel good about you hanging out with those old guys.
Yeah, no,
But Mom, he's showing me how to play.
They're cool.
I got a special back room with games. I think you, Jeff. You know, you're getting old enough. I want to show you this other games that we got.
I got a special game. to show
You're like,
you.
your life is a different Strokes episode.
Yeah. No, it was just a little more
very
nerdy.
special one.
I mean, I really don't think it was all that different. It was just maybe a little more nichey and a little bit more like what it's probably like for anybody who buys board games now.
Right.
You know, it was a little more on the fringe.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm very much picturing the board game shop that
Pretty
we walk
much.
into now.
Yep.
Probably like Settlers of Catan or something.
Exactly.
Like I was like, I'm guessing this is probably for you too, Sean. We're about the same age.
Mhm.
Like bypassed that phase, and it was like in Sears. It was like
Yep.
in the Sears basement
Totally.
stuff where it all happened.
Hmm.
That's where the Vectrex and the Odysseys and all,
Yeah.
all the fun went
Yeah, we
down.
would go to Hill's department store for our games.
Yeah. And check it out. Like, I remember when the Master System and Nintendo Entertainment System first came out. I mean, this was obviously, I had Ataris and Intellivisions and all the other stuff between there. And that was pretty exciting. Going to like the equivalent of Target. It's this place in San Diego called
Yeah.
Gemco.
Mm-hmm.
Gemco, long out of business now.
But Toys R Us
Yeah.
used to have them too back then. Like they'd have
Yeah.
those hanging little plastic things even back then.
Toys R Us, yeah, that was the other staple. Going in there, looking on those things. But they had that glass case. You look in there and see Rob.
Yeah, you can't touch the thing. You can only look at like the replica.
Yeah, and then you take your little ticket up to the window.
Yeah,
The
I'll take
lady
it.
hooks you up.
Huh.
Toys R Us, man, they're going out of business.
Are they?
Yeah.
There's a
Most
lot
of them
fewer of
already
them
have.
around, yeah.
Most of them have already closed. That was
Goddamn
the
internet.
spot. And then, like, the idea of a game-only store, I mean, those started appearing later. Then there was that phase where then there was, like, I think a rebirth for me, and there were, like, a few game-dedicated shops.
Right, that's
And
when
like, I would go to
electronic
those.
started showing up.
And then it was, like, yeah, then,
Babbage's.
like, and Funko Land and stuff like that.
Right.
Ryan, don't tell me you entered the world in the era of the Funko Lands and
Oh
Game
no,
Crazies
it
and-
was the big game stores when I was younger were Babbage's, Software, etc.
Right.
Yeah,
Were you a clerk at Babbage's?
I was not.
Okay. I thought you had some story before that you were telling me.
I worked retail at a Sam Goody, which sold
That's pretty hot.
games.
That's pretty. They have really good music there too.
Yeah, actually, that reminds me. The other place
Goodies
I would
got
buy
it.
them at would be computer stores.
Get a CD, $29.99.
Like Egghead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like dedicated small shops that
Right.
were selling computers.
Right. That's the other thing. It's like, and the only I was like strictly console on that. It's up outside like Commodore VIC-20 and like the Commodore 64. There was this big gap, but then like I remember going to like certain like friend's house or whatever, and their parents would have a Mac or whatever and playing some old games with the mouse on that in black and white. It would always scare me. They seem so deep. Like I would get so scared. I'd play
They're
like the
intimidating,
dumbest
yeah.
game. Yeah, and it'd be like just a dude. Maybe even know what it is. A dude, old, green and black graphics going
the
under
abstraction
these
is terrifying.
Mayan ruins, and there'd be crocodiles and dinosaurs down there. But like when I started seeing like the snakes and shit, I was already scared. And they start throwing some dinosaurs at me. That was too much. I wasn't ready for that.
You were
Yeah.
what, like 19 then, or
Yeah, it was probably like 25.
I feel you.
I was still in diapers.
at
The
25?
abstraction in that era was like kind of frightening because you could make of it whatever you wanted. Like that Indiana Jones game for the Atari,
Yeah.
most freaky thing in the entire universe for some reason to me.
Oh, and the old dude text. Like now that we're showing, like now we probably seem so young to you, but like the text only adventures, or
Yeah.
there would just be like a little bit of like pseudo 3D, graphics that's like just vector or
Sure.
whatever.
Yeah.
Like that would scare the shit out of me. I would feel so like, holy shit, like it's talking to me. You
Yeah.
want to pick up the sword? I'd be like, yeah, I won't pick up the sword.
Yeah, I think about those early like Battlezone games. Those things, like I don't want to sound like
Back in my day.
but really, in my memory now, those to me feel like the most immersive games I ever played because it was like the
Yeah.
first time
You had to imagine.
that your mind ever did that,
Mhm.
where you were actually putting yourself in some other place. I have very vivid memories of those kind of games,
Right.
and really being lost inside them.
I think it's probably just being part of being young too, because like choose your own adventure books would make me feel the same way.
Yeah.
Like, I'd get all bummed out if I picked the wrong one and I couldn't decide whether it was like ethical to just like skip back to where I made like the shitty choice or like start the whole book over again.
You had ethical dilemmas over choose your own adventure books.
I had to.
I never questioned it. I would always flip back.
Really?
Yeah.
It was painful.
You were
for me,
like
too.
you were the self-styled hero of time. Well, my time ability allows me to go back when necessary and redecide things.
Yeah.
So what about now? Now going into game stores, part of the reason I chose this is because and we can make this PC specific,
Okay.
Now, well, for one, it sucks. If you go into EB Games or Games, I used to like EB, but when they merged with GameStop, I always thought of GameStop is it's a hybrid of three things, and none of them is flattering. One, a pawn shop, and I mean just like the pawn shop where like the sorriest dude's in there like turning his wedding band in because he needs to get himself a pack of like Lucky Strikes or something, Then an Amway, a friend with an Amway like Jones with the hard on for Amway. Like, hey, dude, I got this. You pyramid scheme or something, Yeah. And then finally, a daycare center, a filthy, rotten,
daycare,
grotesque daycare center, like where you're stepping over diapers as you're walking in, and it just smells so bad. You pull your shirt up over your nose. And
I would also add add the DMV in terms of like customer service and how long it takes just to get in and out of there.
Well, the DMV, no one wants to talk to you. At the game store, they want to fucking be your educator. Well, did you do? No, it's pronounced Hideo, not Hideo, or vice versa, whatever. It's Boktai, not Boktai. Or it's Inuyasha, not Yuyunacha. I mean, like, whatever. There's that.
Well, they are totally you're right about the daycare thing. It's totally the drop-off point. Mom's going to go to Mervin's, so why don't you go into the GameStop over here and
play
like
some
look at some Wii
games.
games and play the demos.
They got the kiosks, yeah. And
Every other time,
scary.
no matter what store I go to, I feel like I just get like the worst service. I'm just like,
did you pre-order? We don't have that in. You didn't pre-order? Everyone knows you got it. It's all about pre-ordering.
Oh my god!
Would you like it? So your total is $9.99. Would you like a 50-year warranty with that? Would you like the warranty, sir?
Every time I've gone
the strategy guide.
Oh, I see you're buying a Mario game. Do you know Mario Party 17's coming out? Do you want to pre-order that too? And then they call you. Now they call you at home. So you buy the piece of shit and you get the call. Hey,
how you liking the game?
Yeah, do you want to bring it in? And sell it back? We'll give you a good deal. Give you $2.99 credit, so you can buy Mario Party 18. I mean,
what were you going to say there, Shawn?
But I don't know if they're short stocking them on purpose or something to like pump up pre-orders. But every time I've gone somewhere like on game I'm excited about X comes out, I want to go over and get Lost Planet or whatever. Go to EB, they don't have it. They say, oh, you should have pre-ordered, and I'm like, shut up.
They have like a quota they have to meet though. when they do it.
Every time I go to Best Buy, I got stacks of them. Everywhere.
Do you want the discount card?
Every time. So I'm just I've like kind of given up on
the mag
let's just go.
Yeah, it's a weird bullshit sort of industry in that way, isn't it? I mean, it's not that way with like whatever the new December CD comes out. Did you pre-order it?
Right. Well,
I mean, you can just go into a goddamn store and buy the CD.
Yeah. Linkin Park's coming back. Did you know Linkin Park? They were hot before. They're coming back. They got a new one. Do you want to pre-order it? Do you want a warranty for that Linkin Park CD?
All this weird.
In case your big brother finds it and snaps it in half?
Well, that might happen.
Yeah, just sell me the game.
It's bad in that, but even worse. I mean, part of the whole thing with the Games for Windows initiative is that we're going to have these. Because the PC games all go on these shelves in the middle, and they're all positioned to save space. So all you see is the spine, right?
Right, and they're all totally hahaphazard, and some of them are games from like 1993.
It's just the weirdest mix of
Chess Tycoon.
Right, of Chess Tycoon with Company Heroes or whatever.
Right, it's treated like a bargain bin, even though it's not.
Yeah, so you have like the brand new releases right next to the most sad shit, sad shovelware.
8 Sudoku games.
Right.
In one.
Pinball.
Yeah.
25 pinball tables.
Yeah.
It's like stuff that would be like at the checkout stand at Office Depot or something.
Yeah.
Mixed with it. So a lot of like people, when he quizzed people on the internet, sort of agreed. Most of them said that, you don't, if you're a PC gamer, you don't really buy your PC games at one of the specialty shops.
Right.
You end up going to, some of them were really happy with like Best Buys and Circuit Cities because it was clean, it was tidy. Things were organized by genre instead of just being like turned sideways, like you could find hardcore stuff if you wanted, and that was actually labeled so.
They have the stuff.
For casual games. Others still weren't so happy with that, or they liked it, but what they didn't like was that it was all based on recent product. And it's almost impossible to buy stuff that goes back, beyond a certain date. So, of course, what everyone seems to like when it comes to PC is, buying stuff online.
Yeah.
Steam and stuff. And maybe that one other, since we're running out of time, the last cool, interesting thing on that for me is a lot of people were bitching that Blizzard needs to go and get their junk together in some way that like Valve has with Steam. There's people that one guy took a photo. He had 4 copies of Warcraft 3 because he kept losing the key. That's kind of his own fault for doing that, but like,
right.
But it's like, I mean that isn't ever, something you have to worry about when you get a Steam game or something.
Right. I look forward to all digital only.
Me too. Mm-hmm. It is the future. There's the future.
With my music, too. All digital.
And we all...
Aren't you already there with your music?
Not really. I went to Amoeba Records in Berkeley this weekend, and I bought 3 CDs because they were all cheap. They were 3 CDs. They were both cheap. That's nice. Time to go back to math class.
I need to read start writing me some letters for me to read.
Yeah. But they were cheap, so I bought them because they were only like $5 a piece. But the first thing I did was I burned them, and I'll never play them again now. So now there's more plastic sitting around my
CDs,
house.
Yeah,
that's
right.
what I mean. I'll play the music.
Yeah. A lot of people, this is totally, left field now. But, I mean, there could be a point when you will be glad to have the CD because everyone's going to realize that, the quality of MP3s is actually horrendous. And when something better comes along, and they're going to be like, I have nothing to show for it except all these, really shit quality MP3s.
Well, I'm just more worried about my hard drive crashing than the quality.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah. I'm not going to be one of those audiophile guys who's like, the symbols...
Right.
on Rust Never Sleeps
Robert
are
Ashley,
so much better on vinyl.
Is in that camp.
Yeah.
He's always, every little thing. And I'm like, hey, man, call me a Philistine because it still sounds good to me.
Right. So I wanted to, can we switch topics?
Go ahead.
I spent a bunch of time on Lord of the Rings Online this week. I got myself onto the closed beta. And, Shawn, I think you got on there too, right? But you just barely...
I barely scratched the surface of Middle-earth.
And I was liking what I saw so far, which kind of surprised me.
Well, it's been in development how long?
Actually, since 1998 is when this game first
9 years?
9 years.
It's switched publishers at least once.
Yeah, it's undergone a lot of changes.
Yeah, it started as Middle-earth Online. This was before the first way before there was even, the hint of a movie version of this, being done by Sierra back when they still existed the first time.
They don't exist anymore. There's not a second time.
Right.
Sorry.
Say if he is or not.
So they worked on it for years, and then Turbine got involved, and Turbine has made Asheron's Call 1 and 2, and Dungeons & Dragons Online. They got involved, and I think in around 2003, and now it's theirs only, and it has nothing to do with Vivendi, and in fact, Midway is publishing it. And I was a big fan of Asheron's Call 1, actually. I thought that was one of the first of that kind of first-generation MMOs that was it was smooth, and it got a lot of things right. But since then, not really the biggest fan of either AC2 or Dungeons & Dragons Online. So I didn't go into this with very high hopes. And plus, really all our experience with every licensed MMO so far has not been exactly that great. And on top of all that, if you're going to take a licensed MMO, well, Lord of the Rings, it's yet another fantasy world. Granted, it's the fantasy world, right, that many of us were weaned on. But still, even though it's Middle-earth, did we really need Middle-earth Online when we have Azeroth and I forget the name of all these other fantasy worlds, but you know what I mean.
My deal with these licensed games that have this set universe is I find it limiting. In one regard, and you can tell me if this is true or not. I know in Middle-earth that magic is limited to not many people. Gandalf can do it, and a couple other people can do it. Everyone else is pretty mundane. In that sort
My
of
Hobbit can never learn.
Sounds
magic.
like the whole Jedi argument all over again.
Well, it is kind of the Jedi argument, and also there's the case that because they're setting this at the time of the Lord of the Rings books, at the time of the era of Frodo and all that.
Wait, let's back it real quick. Hold
Yeah.
on. I just said so chill, so just straight up sounds like that Jedi argument again.
It is.
Well, think about that. It sounds like the Jedi argument. Talk about Jedis.
But we all knew what you meant.
Only the wizards
We knew
could
what you
do.
meant.
Come on, we gotta have some. I don't know. We gotta laugh at that.
We do have to laugh.
Well,
If I don't,
the sad thing is
someone
we
is
all
gonna
got
hear-
your shorthand there.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, it totally is like that. There's going to be people arguing that they want to be a white wizard like Gandalf.
Everyone, now there are too many white wizards. I had to work, hours and hours. I spent a good 300 hours in order to become a white wizard. Now this guy gets in 12 hours and he's a white wizard too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's
Well,
the whole,
personally,
that's the Jedi argument.
I always play spellcasters in these kind of games because I like to watch, crazy spells go off. It's really, that's about it. That's what it boils down to. So I'm looking at
I like the colors.
I do like colors. That's why I like World of Warcraft.
Earth is my favorite color.
But yeah, I mean, it's all basically just like different skins on the map anyway. So
right.
When I look at the Lord of the Rings character selection, I don't really see anything that pops out as like, oh yeah, that's the kind of class I like to play.
Right.
I like, and there's some that are like, I guess the lore master.
Yeah, they kind of skate around the idea of magic. Like you have your lore master and you have your minstrel. So we talked about this on the WoW podcast, but you heal people by playing your lute. So. So that's how they get around the no magic rule. But my biggest concern before I played was that like I wondered why they didn't do like BioWare did with the Star Wars franchise and just go, you know what, we're not going to fuck around with like Luke and Leia and all that because it's been too done. We don't want to be stuck in that storyline. So we're going to set this like 5,000 years in the past, like. With Lord of the Rings, they had Tolkien's whole universe that he had mapped out, and I wondered, well, why didn't they just set this like before or after the Lord of the Rings part so that they weren't trapped by this one storyline that we all know in and out?
Well, I think that's because they kind of said like, well, you got to meet Gandalf. You can't play this without
Right,
Gandalf.
I think they were going for the low-hanging fruit there. They wanted it to be a game where, you get to meet Gandalf, right? But having said that, like now my experience with that is cool because like I got to meet Gandalf. No, I'm just.
Who's that cool to anymore? It's like this game's got Darth Vader.
I met Gaffer.
No, exactly.
Like how many times have you played games
to
with Gandalf in them by now?
If you go back to the Star Wars analogy, like in Galaxies, like
including the fake ass
David
Final
Crafty saw
Fantasy that was
Jabba the
Lord
Hutt.
of the Rings.
Right, but I met Gaffer Gamgee though. That's totally different.
You're making me sick.
Those words are nauseating.
No, I am. I've played a lot of these MMOs, and the thing that I'm finding so far, and it's early on, that Turbine is nailing is they're just kind of nailing a good sweet spot of like quest structure and loot and experience. It's an undefinable formula. I mean, I talked about this in my Titan Quest review too. That like either a game has it or they don't. Either they've hit on a carrot and stick thing or they have not. And I feel like so far Turbine is showing that they're getting the reward. The work versus reward thing right.
Yeah.
The art style is something that I'm, maybe I'm starting to have Stockholm syndrome here, but it is growing on me.
That's hot, actually. We got to keep that because that's hot enough to like. It's a shame if that doesn't proliferate.
Doesn't go somewhere.
It has definitely been an argument, though.
We got to give that all credit to Shawn Elliott for that one
for the Stockholm syndrome. Because that's we've talked about this before with MMOs in terms of Vanguard or EverQuest before, like the idea that you can have a quote unquote realistic environment versus WoW's cartoony environment, like whether, does the realism, quote unquote realism, actually buy you anything? Does it make it more immersive or does it make it less immersive? Because I might argue that it makes it less immersive.
Well, you hear it all, it dates quicker and,
I don't think anyone's gotten realism right anyway.
I find the attempt at realism
so,
ends up
temporal too in games. It's like realism lasts you about 3 months,
Right.
Yeah.
And I find that if they get anything wrong at all, it like destroys the whole thing.
Yep.
If they have like weird lips or if their arms are hanging in a weird way.
Yeah, if the guy's supposed to be like real, but then he starts talking like that was one thing in the Riddick game. As much as I like it, it's like the whole cast is composed of like the burn ward or something. They'll come up, melted ass mannequins. Or it's someone left. Oh, you left the wax mannequin by the oven again. He comes up and talks. Blah, 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 blah.
Oblivion's a little bit like that too.
Yeah,
they'll look realistic, but then when they start talking,
Oblivion's absolutely that way.
Yeah,
it's
some
just
weird
like
thing going on with their mouths.
A mix of superfluous 23rd chromosomes and all sorts of stuff in that.
Yeah.
Photorealism way overrated.
But I did mention on the WoW podcast, but there's this weird thing going on in the Lord of the Rings chat channel with people like, this is so much more realistic than WoW. I would never play that cartoon. Yeah. And you're like, these are 3D graphics, dude. You're looking at a cartoon too.
Yeah.
Someone drew these graphics as well.
It looks so real.
These are all cartoons. You're not in Middle Earth.
That's what it really looks like.
Dumb
well,
shit.
then you should just ruin it and make some like just retarded looking goofy character. It looks like a furry
I
or
did.
cartoon character.
Well, I had
First
my
guy
Hobbit's
was that.
body shape. I gave him the fattest.
Cry persecution if anyone yells at you for looking so stupid.
Yeah, I am liking the game, though, but it remains to be seen. Also, there's a scary amount of role players on. I'm hoping that this just because it's the closed beta, so they're enthusiastic.
Yeah,
Really.
probably.
And they're serious
Wait,
about it.
doesn't it enforce certain naming restrictions based on like
They suggest
Tolkien
them,
lore?
yeah. But you still find people getting their way around it. You know, they always will.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So how's it better than WoW? How's it different than WoW?
I didn't say it was better than WoW.
Okay, well,
let's not go crazy here.
How's it different than WoW? What are we getting
Well,
here?
it's very WoW-like.
Okay.
So they have definitely looked at WoW and seen, which is not a dumb thing to do if you're
Right.
making an MMO. And there's one out there that has 8 million subscribers. Okay, we're running out of time. But so the basic idea of, what they took was like there's always 100 quests to do. So you have a lot to do as soon as you get into a new zone. They give you a ton of stuff to do. They send you all over
Wait,
the
100 quests, but we've been over this already, right? Collect 5 of these, 10 of these.
For the
15
most
of-
part, they've got some that are a little better than
Right.
they tried to come up with some like, you got to.
I just want to put it in perspective. It's not like when someone's like,
Jeff, did you collect 10 apples?
we
for
got a
someone?
CD with
I
1,000
collected-
songs, but every song is like
Yeah,
one note.
I
different.
collected 10 apples for Gaffer Gamgee. That's
Yeah.
that's how I did my part to fight
You're making
Sauron.
me sick.
I picked apples up off the ground.
Yeah, for Gamgee.
So yes, those quests are the same, but they added some timed quests and so, I mean, yeah, they're variations on a theme.
Yeah.
The things that I found that were different that are interesting is they added.
There are no alternatives in MMO space to that anyway. So.
No.
Well, the problem is that when they
One day
try,
there will
they
be.
fail.
Right. And even this game admitted it in the character selection, just like tank. They,
You're right,
They
right.
call it a gladiator, and then they have a little description, and then right underneath it says tank.
Right.
Just kind of. It
DPS.
sounds like it's just giving up. Just by the way, it's a tank.
Yeah.
It's
right.
your nuker.
And you know what? Why not do that?
right.
They're just basically
no
cutting
one's
to the
figured out how to
chase.
do it otherwise, and I wouldn't even know how to begin to.
Right. Whether it can. It's not going to get WoW's numbers. I mean, no game is going to get WoW's numbers. I think WoW's probably like a once in a lifetime phenomenon here. But this one, I think, actually does err on the side of being fun rather than making you work for it like a Vanguard. And in that sense, I think they're doing the right thing. And that coupled with the license could be good for them. They're definitely erring on the let's give them fun things to do and let's give them lots of rewards and keep
So
them
you're
happy.
ready? You're ready for the $199 lifetime membership that you could buy, which is real. You can.
Yeah, you can.
That's what, almost 2 years. Like if you bought it month by month, it's $10 a month. That'll almost
It's $10 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it'll pay for itself with less than 2 years.
We'll see. I'm going to keep looking at it, but but I did play it all weekend long, and it made me want to keep playing. So I will give it that.
So it's a WoW killer, huh?
It's gonna topple WoW.
I'm not saying that. I never want to hear
No,
that
I'm just
phrase again.
sorry.
I know you're kidding.
So that's some heavy duty stuff. Do you want to close off with a few more?
Yeah, let's
This is
bring
Heroes
us
of
out.